No.
No?
No. I went separately on this truck, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Did you work at the Roberts Barracks Hospital?
No. No, I don't know why I didn't, but I haven't a clue.
Yeah.
I was, apparently, I've learned latterly that I was a food carrier.
Yes. Yeah. Now, if we progress, you were captured in February 1942, but then in October 1942 something happened. What happened to you at that stage?
I think that was probably when we got on the Fukai Maru, which was an old tram steamer, who had been carrying bauxite, and I was with an Irish regiment, and there was an old sergeant major of the Irish regiment, and he and I were lying on this steel hull of this old boat, you know, and she got to Saigon, and then she kaput practically.
Yeah. Keep talking. What, now, we've just gone forward a little bit. How come you were chosen to go on the Fukai Maru? Was Des Brennan involved in that you went, or?
I think he must have been.
Yeah.
I don't know that exactly, Peter.
Yeah.
I can't tell you.
But he was your doctor in your unit.
Yeah.
Do you remember going down to the wharf? Do you remember going through a fumigation boat? Do you remember General Percival having to drop his trousers and have a glass rod test?
No, I've heard it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, Des probably told you about it, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, now you've told us about the Fukai Maru. When you moved off, and you did not know where you were going, did you? So where was the first place you stopped?
Well, strangely enough, there was a New Zealander with us. He'd been in the Merchant Navy, and we pulled into a wharf, and he said, "This is not Japan, this is South Korea."
Yep.
And then they got us off the Fukai Maru and made us march through this town. I think it was called Busan.
Busan.
And made us march through. You know, look who we've got through.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And, so then we stopped in a camp there for about 2 or 3 weeks, I think, and then we got on the train in sort of cattle trucks, and that took us to Mukden, Manchuria.
Yeah, but before, from Busan, you went up to Keijo. Does that ring a bell? But from Busan, you went in a train then. Do you remember anything about that train journey? Was it a very good train? No, it wasn't basic?
Very basic, very basic, yeah.
Okay, so as you say, you went further up north to what is now called Seoul, but I think it was called Keijo at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And then now you were starting to tell me about the trip from Keijo into Mukden. Yeah. Now, when that train came in, when you were going to get on the train to go up to Mukden, do you remember anything about when the train came in? Were there other people already on the train?
I'm not sure of that, Peter.
If I suggested they were Americans, would that make help at all?
No, the Americans came after us.
Did they? Yeah.
We went up there, Australians, Dr. Brennan, and I don't know how many of us, I can't remember.
Well, Des was the only officer with the Australian group.
Yeah, that's right.
And there were about about 2 or 3 New Zealanders and about 81 Brits.
Mm.
100 in total.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Mm.
Yeah, there was, their senior officer was Major Robert Peaty
Yes.
from Winchester in England,
Yeah.
and there was a Peter Lester from Cambridge in England. There was a John Johnson, he was English, I don't know where he was from.
Mm-hmm.
There was Griffin and Gregg, both New Zealanders. That's about all I can remember.
Yeah. Now, what was your impression of the Mukden camp when you first went into it? Did they have huts that were sunk into the ground?
Well, I couldn't understand why. But see, you went down into it, and actually, you see, on the western side of it was the Gobi Desert, and the wind swept across, and that's why it was we went down into to get away from the wind.
Yes.
And that Japanese journalist, she told me it was occupied by the Chinese Nationalist Army, and we were in that camp for about a year, and then they built a much bigger camp for us.
Yes.
In Mukden, Manchuria.
Yeah.
So we were closer to the machine tool factory.
Yes. And who was the owner of that machine tool factory?
MKD, as far as I know.
Yeah, and that in effect it was the Mitsubishi company.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what about the Japanese doctor? Was his name Oki or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember much about him? Did he speak English?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Was he a reasonable man? Or?
Yes, he was a reasonable bloke. He put a glass rod up my bum, and he said, "You've got dysentery."
Yeah.
And I knew that because I was running up and downstairs on the old Fukurai
Maru. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, "Can you work?" And I thought, well, I better say yes, or I'll be in big trouble.
Yes.
So I said, I can work. And then we went into this camp Chinese National Army had been in, and I'm trying to think. We got 2 saucerfuls of soya beans per day and lots of water. That's all we could live on. You know. And,
now, what did you do when people died?
we never found that out, Peter.
No. Okay, so this is what Fuyuko must have asked you about last year, was it? Yeah. But now, what I was really meaning, as I understand it, the ground was so hard you couldn't, it was frozen.
That's right.
Therefore, when people died, they were stored.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
They never let us see that.
No. The bodies were stored, and then when the thaw occurred, they were able to bury them. You don't, but you only believe that. You never saw evidence of that.
They wouldn't let you see it.
Now, what was your role in the POW camp in Mukden? What did you do?
I was sort of mainly carrying the food.
Yes.
So-called food. That
Yes.
was my main job. And Dr. Brennan got me in as a medical orderly as well.
Yes.
And I'll have to go back a bit. Can I go back?
Yes,
a bit?
please. Yeah.
Well,